Army medic specialist, Rachel Lawson had spent months saving wounded soldiers without firing a single round. When a Taliban sniper trapped her special forces unit in a deadly kill zone, every trained marksman had failed to neutralize the threat. The shooter was concealed 200 meters away in a cave, systematically targeting Americans. "Lawson, tend to Lieutenant Collins," ordered team leader Walker over the radio. But as Rachel moved toward the injured officer, she caught sight of the sniper's exact location through her medical scope. "Sir, give me one chance," she whispered. "I can finish this now." What followed would silence the enemy and change everything. The Afghan sun blazed relentlessly over the Kunar Province Valley as special forces. Operational Detachment Alpha 312 set up their overwatch position on the rugged ridge above, a compound flagged in intelligence as a high-value Taliban stronghold. The assignment was supposed to be standard: insert at night, observe suspected insurgent leadership, then withdraw with actionable intel for future missions. But nothing about this deployment had been ordinary for Army medic specialist Rachel Lawson, who had been attached to ODA 312 for 4 months after completing her elite medical training. Her mission was clear in doctrine: deliver advanced medical care to special operators in remote zones where traditional evacuation was impossible. Rachel had joined the Army 3 years earlier, determined to serve as a combat medic, drawn by the chance to preserve lives in the harshest environments where American troops fought. Her training had been exhaustive: advanced trauma support, field surgical procedures, pharmaceutical knowledge, and emergency medicine techniques that allowed her to operate as a physician's assistant in combat. What her education did not cover was offensive combat action. Her weapons training was confined to basic marksmanship with standard-issue rifles, enough for self-defense but far from the precision shooting skills that Special Forces snipers spent years perfecting. Her path into special operations was anything but conventional. Raised in rural Montana, Rachel grew up in a family where hunting and shooting were generational traditions. Her father, a retired Army Ranger, had put a rifle in her hands before she was 10, instilling respect for weapons and the fundamentals of accuracy most never mastered. Still, her civilian experience was limited to hunting deer and elk within 300 meters, using scoped rifles under calm conditions with plenty of preparation time. Combat shooting was something else, entirely striking. Human targets at extreme distances, under relentless time pressure, and with weapons unfamiliar to hunters. "Lawson's status report on equipment readiness," came the firm voice of Master Sergeant Anthony Walker, the team leader who had guided ODA 312 through 3 combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, spoke with steady authority. "All medical supplies secured, trauma kits packed, surgical instruments sterilized and ready for use in the field," Rachel confirmed as she completed her final equipment inspection before the unit moved into position for their surveillance mission. The target compound sat in a valley 2 kilometers below their observation post, reachable only through a narrow corridor that forced any attacking force into predictable kill zones. Intelligence indicated the compound sheltered a Taliban commander responsible for organizing strikes against American units across the region. The assignment had been designed strictly as surveillance: observe, record, and report enemy activity without engaging unless self-defense demanded it. Yet operations in Afghanistan rarely unfolded as planned, where insurgents had long since adapted to exploit American tactics and technological superiority. Reports suggested the compound was only lightly guarded, with most Taliban fighters dispersed to avoid the devastating air power that U.S. forces could rapidly deploy. The objective was simple: collect intelligence about enemy, leadership and planning to shape future operations. "Team, we've got activity inside the compound," reported Staff Sergeant David Wong, the unit's intelligence specialist, scanning the valley through powerful optics. "Multiple armed personnel. Appears to be a meeting underway." Rachel settled herself at the center of the defensive perimeter, her medical gear arranged and ready, prepared to treat casualties if necessary, but otherwise focused on the surveillance mission that was their primary objective. Trouble surfaced about half an hour later when Staff Sergeant Kevin Lopez, the team's communications expert, picked up unusual radio chatter on frequencies known to be used by Taliban fighters in the area. "Multiple transmissions. Pattern suggests coordinated troop movement," Lopez warned. "They may be aware of our position and are maneuvering to trap us." Master Sergeant Anthony Walker immediately shifted the detachment into defensive posture, recognizing their cover had been blown, and they now faced the likelihood of encirclement by a much larger force. The breach was likely through human intelligence rather than electronic detection. Local civilians, sympathetic to the Taliban, might have spotted the team's insertion and relayed details, giving enemy leaders the chance to set a trap in terrain that strongly favored defense. Team, prepare for rapid extraction, Walker ordered over the tactical network. We're calling for helicopter support and moving to extraction point Alpha. But as the operators began shifting toward their designated coordinates, the situation worsened instantly. A single rifle crack echoed across the valley, followed by the sharp whine of a high-velocity round smashing into rock near Wong's position. "Sniper!" he shouted, diving behind a jagged boulder that shielded him from the direction of the shot. The enemy sharpshooter had set up inside a cave nearly 200 meters up the opposite mountainside, commanding a clear field of fire over both the extraction route and the team's current position. From that vantage, he could track and strike at any movement while remaining nearly impossible to target in return. The site had been chosen with professional precision, suggesting advanced military training. The cave gave him shelter from American airstrikes, while concealing him from ground observation. The distance allowed accurate engagement, while staying safely outside the effective range of most U.S. small arms. "Anyone got eyes on the shooter?" Walker called over the radio, scanning the slope through his rifle scope in search of the sniper's nest. "Negative," replied Sergeant First Class Jonathan Reed, the unit's designated marksman, armed with an M24 sniper rifle engineered for long-range precision fire. Reed was ODA 312's most skilled distance shooter, with extensive training and combat experience that included successful sniper operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. If anyone could pinpoint and neutralize the enemy sniper, it should have been him. Yet minutes passed with no success. Reed still could not lock onto the sniper's position. Meanwhile, the enemy exploited his advantage, sending carefully aimed shots that pinned the team down and blocked any movement toward their extraction route. "Reed, can you take the shot?" Walker pressed. "Negative. He's using the terrain and camouflage. No clear target from this angle. I catch glimpses of muzzle flash, but I can't acquire a clean mark." The tactical situation was worsening quickly. One skilled marksman had effectively trapped the team, denying them maneuver space and preventing helicopter extraction. Intelligence had already warned of additional Taliban fighters converging on their location, meaning the longer they remained pinned, the higher the chance of being overwhelmed by superior numbers. 20 minutes into the firefight, the sniper showcased both his expertise and his patience. By firing a round that struck Lieutenant Collins, the team's executive officer, just as he attempted to shift position to call in close air support. "Man down!" Walker roared into the radio. "Lawson, get to Collins right away." Rachel seized her medical kit and began crawling low toward Lieutenant Collins' position, keeping beneath the ridgeline to avoid becoming a target for the hostile sniper. The 30-meter crawl took nearly 5 minutes of slow maneuvering across ground that offered almost no concealment. Lieutenant Collins had been struck in the left shoulder by a 7.62 millimeter round that shattered his collarbone and caused severe tissue damage, demanding urgent medical attention to stop potentially fatal blood loss. "Sir, I need to stabilize you and ready you for evacuation," Rachel said as she began checking the injury, staying low to avoid detection. The damage was grave but could be controlled if managed quickly. Rachel applied firm pressure to halt the bleeding, administered a painkiller, and started securing Lieutenant Collins' shoulder to limit further harm during transport. While continuing treatment, Rachel's angle provided her with a new line of sight toward the mountainside, where the sniper was thought to be concealed. Among her gear were high-magnification optics designed for medical work. When she glanced toward the suspected position, she caught sight of something none of the combat troops had noticed: a glint of sunlight, reflecting off metal, likely a scope or another optical device, which revealed the sniper's exact hideout within a rock formation, invisible from earlier viewpoints. The glare appeared only when the marksman shifted to engage fresh targets, but it offered the first solid confirmation of his location inside the cave system that had hidden him from U.S. forces for more than an hour. "Master Sergeant Walker, I've got eyes on the sniper's position," Rachel reported over the comms, continuing to treat Lieutenant Collins while tracking the enemy. "Reed, Lawson has the target. Can you take the shot if I mark it?" Walker asked. "Negative. From my angle, that site is blocked. The terrain cuts off my line of fire." Rachel realized that her placement, chosen purely to reach Lieutenant Collins, was the only spot offering a clear view of the enemy sniper. She also knew she was not trained as a sharpshooter and had never fired at distances anywhere near 1,200 meters. The enemy sniper fired once more, delivering a precise shot that forced Sergeant Reed to stay concealed, proving the tactical situation was only deteriorating. Intelligence updates confirmed Taliban. Reinforcements were advancing toward the unit's location, leaving perhaps 30 minutes before a coordinated assault could overrun their defenses. "Sir, I need to say something that's going to sound unbelievable," Rachel transmitted to Master Sergeant Walker. "I'm the only one with a clear line on the sniper, and I may be able to take the shot to neutralize him. Lawson, you're a medic, not a sharpshooter. Your job is to treat Collins," Walker replied. "Sir, Collins is stable. His wound is severe, but not immediately fatal if we can get him evacuated within the next hour. But if we don't stop that sniper, none of us are leaving." Walker recognized the harsh truth in Rachel's words. The team was effectively pinned down by a lone enemy, marksman whose skill and elevated position prevented any extraction and could systematically destroy them once Taliban reinforcements arrived. "Lawson, what exactly are you suggesting?" "Sir, I need someone to hand me their rifle and trust me with a single chance to end this standoff. I can see the sniper. I know the fundamentals of long-range fire, and I believe I can make the shot that saves us." The idea defied everything Walker understood about military roles and the strict separation of duties that kept special operations units effective. Medics treated the wounded. Marksmen engaged the enemy. Those responsibilities were built on intensive training and proven skills, yet Walker also recognized that desperate circumstances sometimes required unorthodox solutions, and Rachel's position gave them the only tactical edge they had, found in over 3 hours of combat. Her background offered at least some justification. Her civilian shooting practice, though limited, had given her a foundation in the core principles of marksmanship. Her medical training had given her steady hands and the ability to perform delicate actions under severe stress. Months attached to ODA, 312 had familiarized Rachel with advanced weapons and tactical procedures. Most importantly, she possessed the mental stability to attempt precision fire in combat, where failure meant the death of her entire team. "Reed, give Lawson your rifle and guide her through the shot," Walker ordered, making a decision that could either save the unit or cost them their most critical weapon. "Sir, are you sure about this?" Reed asked, fully aware of the risks in letting someone without formal sniper training attempt such a shot under combat pressure. "Reed, we're out of standard options. Lawson has the only line of sight, and that sniper must be taken down before Taliban reinforcements arrive." Reed moved quickly to Rachel's location, carrying his M24 sniper rifle, and the expertise needed to walk an inexperienced shooter through a precision engagement at extreme distance. "Lawson, this isn't like firing an M4 on the range at 300 meters, Reed warned. "You're about to attempt a 1,200-meter shot in shifting wind against an enemy, who will fire back the second you miss." "Reed, I understand what's at stake. Just tell me what I need to do," Rachel replied. Reed began outlining the essentials of long-range marksmanship while Rachel kept her eyes fixed on the sniper's hideout. The hostile shooter was partially hidden inside a rock formation, shielded yet still able to observe and fire on the Americans. The scope is zeroed for 1,000 meters. At 1,200, you'll need to hold about 2 mil dots high to offset bullet drop. Wind is around 8 miles per hour, left to right, so hold 1 mil dot left. Rachel processed every detail while studying the figure through the scope. The enemy appeared as a shadow against the pale stone, but hitting him would demand precision, beyond the edge of both the rifle's capability and human skill. The M24 was engineered for effectiveness, out to 1,000 meters in ideal settings. A 1,200-meter shot was pushing it to the absolute limit, requiring flawless calculations and execution. "Reed, when do I take the shot?" she asked. "Wait until he shifts. He's been firing about every 4 minutes. When he changes position for the next shot, his profile will be larger for roughly 3 seconds. Rachel eased herself into the firing stance Reed had rapidly taught her, steadying her breathing and preparing for the brief window in which the sniper would expose himself. The waiting tested her more than the act itself. Rachel's military background was built on urgent medical response, acting instantly to save lives. Precision shooting demanded patience and timing that ran against every instinct she had as a combat medic. Her limited hunting experience had shown her the need for calm when taking long-range shots at deer and elk, but those had been unmoving animals with no time pressure. Combat required instant judgment against an enemy actively attempting to kill her team. 4 minutes after Reed had handed her the weapon, the hostile marksman began shifting again for another attempt on the Americans. Through the glass, Rachel caught him moving within the rocks, his silhouette larger and more defined than before. "Now," Reed whispered. Rachel exhaled halfway, held the rest, and pressed the trigger smoothly. The M24 cracked sharply, echoing down the valley as the 7.62 milli match-grade round raced on its path, taking 1.8 seconds to cover the 1,200 meters. The bullet struck dead center, dropping the enemy sniper instantly, and ending the 3-hour siege that had trapped ODA 312 in a worsening tactical crisis. "Target down," Reed confirmed through the spotting scope. Sniper eliminated. The sudden quiet was broken by radio, chatter announcing that the team was free to move toward their extraction site, no longer threatened by the precision fire that had locked them down for hours. "Outstanding work, Lawson," Master Sergeant Walker transmitted. "You just saved every one of us." Rachel handed the rifle back to Reed, her hands trembling, slightly from the adrenaline that followed her first combat engagement. She had devoted her military career to preserving life, and the realization that she had just taken a life, even that of an enemy fighter who had been trying to kill her teammates, demanded a psychological adjustment her medical training had never prepared her for. The emotional weight of ending a human life was something combat soldiers trained for and expected, but medics usually avoided by focusing on healing rather than harming. Rachel would need counseling and support to process the emotional aftermath of her actions, even though those actions had been necessary to protect American lives. "Reed, was that really a good shot, or did I just get lucky?" Rachel asked. "Lawson, that was a perfect shot under combat conditions that would challenge snipers with years of training. You just achieved something most people would consider impossible." The helicopter extraction proceeded smoothly. 30 minutes later, with Lieutenant Collins receiving advanced medical treatment that Rachel had administered during the engagement. Her medical expertise had kept him stable, but her marksmanship had made his evacuation possible. The after-action report submitted by Master Sergeant Walker would describe Rachel's performance as exceptional marksmanship under extreme pressure, eliminating enemy threat and enabling the team's successful extraction. The report would also recommend her for further training that would officially recognize her demonstrated abilities as both a medic and a precision marksman. 3 weeks later, Rachel received orders to report to the Special Operations Target Interdiction course at Fort Bragg, where she would undergo formal sniper training, qualifying her for dual roles as both a medical specialist and a designated marksman. Her performance in Afghanistan had demonstrated that military occupational specialties were less important than individual capability when situations required innovative solutions to tactical challenges. Rachel had proven that a medic could also be a marksman when lives depended on precision shooting, and that the artificial boundaries between combat and support roles mattered less than the willingness to take responsibility for mission success. The single shot Rachel had fired at 1,200 meters had not only eliminated an enemy threat, it had redefined her military career and challenged assumptions about what individual soldiers could achieve when circumstances demanded excellence. Beyond their formal training, 6 months later, Staff Sergeant Rachel Lawson graduated at the top of her class from sniper school, earning designations as both a Special Forces medical sergeant and a Special Operations sniper. Her rare combination of medical and shooting skills made her an indispensable asset to Special Operations teams that required personnel capable of both healing and killing when missions demanded both. The training program had been demanding, requiring Rachel to master advanced ballistics, camouflage, stalking techniques, and psychological preparation for precision killing under combat stress. Yet her natural talent for marksmanship, combined with the discipline she had developed through medical practice, allowed her to excel in courses that defeated many candidates with more conventional military experience. Her instructors noted that Rachel approached sniper training with the same methodical precision she applied to medical procedures, treating each shot as a life-preserving act rather than simple aggression. This perspective enabled her to maintain emotional balance while developing lethal skills that complemented, rather than contradicted, her oath as a medic to preserve life. The enemy sniper who had trapped ODA 312 in the Afghan mountains had been a skilled marksman with extensive training and combat experience, but he had been eliminated by a single shot fired by someone who had never considered herself a warrior until circumstances forced her to become one. Rachel's story became a case study taught in military training programs that highlighted the importance of individual initiative and the potential for soldiers to surpass their formal qualifications when missions demanded capabilities beyond specialized training. The shot had been flawless. 200 meters, shifting wind, a moving target, extreme pressure, but above all, it had been necessary. Rachel had taken the shot no one else could make, from the position no one else could occupy, at the moment when failure would have meant the loss of her entire team. Some soldiers were trained to fight, others were trained to heal. Rachel Lawson had proven that the most effective soldiers were those prepared to do both when American lives depended on their willingness to exceed every limitation others had tried to impose. The single shot that silenced the enemy had also redefined everything about what it meant to serve in combat, proving that capability mattered more than job description when the stakes were measured in American lives. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a medic had become a sniper for exactly as long as it took to fire one perfect shot. That shot had saved her team, eliminated an enemy threat, and changed her life forever. Sometimes the most critical shots were taken by people who had never intended to be warriors, but who discovered that protecting others required mastering skills they never expected to need. Rachel Lawson had taken one shot that redefined everything, and she had made it count. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this.